Good morning, Rabbi Rabotai.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are continuing on Masechet Avodah Zarah, and we are on Daf Yud Tet Amud Aleph, 7 lines down from the wide lines. Still amidst the beautiful Agadic Gemara, and the Gemara, the last we discussed was when a person delves into Torah, the Torah starts being Torah v'Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kim betorat Hashem chifso. But then, when you connect yourself with the Torah, it becomes your Torah. Uvetorato yehege yomam v'layla. Again, in continuation of the darshaning of the first psukim of Tehillim, Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach ba'atzad reshaim. Fortunate is the person that does not waste his time going ba'atzad reshaim, derech hataim, the path of sinners. Moshav letzim lo yashav. He does not sit with the scoffers. Ki'im, but that's sur merah, that's not doing bad. But you don't sit still either, because not doing bad is not enough. You have to do good. Sur merah v'aseh tov. Stay away from negativity, but do good. And the doing good is Ki'im betorat Hashem chifzo. He loves the Torah. Uvetorato yege yomam v'layla. And he is learning as much as he can, yomam v'layla. So Torat Hashem chifzo, he loves the Torah of Hashem, starts. Uvetorato yege yomam v'layla. It's a discrepancy. So the Gemara darshaned that it starts being Torat Hashem, and the way the Marshad Maharal explained this is, first you don't have that much connection with the Torah. First, you don't have a spirituality as much. Torah is a completely spiritual thing. A person is a combination of a guf and a neshama. And which one is the dominant? The guf is dominant. But once you connect yourself with the Torah, once you develop your spirituality, you elevate the level of the spirituality of yourself, and now it becomes your Torah, because you become connected, because you're spiritual as well. Now, says the Gemara, Ve'amar Rava, Le'olam yilmad adam Torah v'achar kach yege. A person, the right way of doing the limud, right way of learning is, first you should learn the scope, the broader scope of things, and then with understanding, normal level of understanding, and then yehege. Then you try to compare the different pieces of information and go deeper and deeper. If you start going deeper and deeper with minimum amount of information, you'll never get the scope of things. So says Rava, Leholam yilmad adam Torah v'achar kach yege. Shenemar, you learn that from the same pasuk. We had this, by the way, if you remember, we had this in Daf Samech Gimal in Masechet Brachot as well. Same Gemara. Shenemar betorat Hashem. You first learn. And then it says you go deep understanding. Higayon means a deep understanding. So yege means you are now plowing deeper and deeper to understand the different levels of the Torah, but that comes afterwards. Rava said another piece. Leolam ligris inish the mishkach v'acharkach delo yada mai kamar. A person should continuously learn and learn and learn, even though that he's forgetting, and even though that he doesn't fully understand the depth of what he's learning. How do you know that? In other words, and you keep on doing it, at some point you stop forgetting. At some point you start remembering what you learn, and at some point you start actually understanding better and better. How do you know? Also from the pasuk, Shenemar Garsa nafshi letava. David HaMelech says, my soul loves Torah so much. Garsa nafshi letava. It has a tava of learning, and therefore is only gores. Now, what's grasa is a grain that's broken to 2 or 4. It's not ground well. It's not when you grind something and you want to mamash make a mill out of it, then you have to grind it well, right? So it says, I'm so much in rush to cover more that garsa nafshi letava. I am just grinding it a little bit, right? Enough to break every grain to 2 or 4 pieces, and yalla, let's get more. So David HaMelech says, I first learn things, even though that I don't fully understand the depth of it. And says the Gemara, Garsa ketiv velo ketiv tachana. It doesn't say I'm grinding it well. It says garsa, which is only breaking each grain to 2 or 4 pieces. And Rava learns from that the person, even though that in the beginning he doesn't fully understand, he doesn't fully remember everything, he should still learn. He should still learn. And at some point, it becomes something that you understand better. It becomes something that you learn and you remember better as well. Now, there are two. This is like a double-edged sword, because at some point, you have to understand a basic minimum. To just go through Daf Yomi, if you're sitting there and just nodding your head like a robot, like every 3 seconds the head comes down and up, right? That also is not good, because you're not understanding anything. You'll never become anything, right? Which we're going to, discuss that as well. But there is this thing of, if I can't be perfect, if I can't remember everything, forget about it. Doesn't work like that. When you learn and you do chazara and you learn again and you learn again and you learn again and more and more and more, at some point, kobetz aliyad yarbe, you start, amassing knowledge, and now your mind is sharper. Like, you see a person that, lavdil, plays the instrument. Like violin, it takes 12 years to learn it. And you wonder to yourself, how in the world? Just everything is so in sync together. This hand moves and the other one pushes the things, and beautiful music comes out. How does that work? Well, 12 years ago, that person also was not, didn't know how to hold the violin. But little by little, you do it, and you do it more, and you do it enough time, and then you learn how exactly everything has to be in sync. Learning is the same way. Says the Gemara, V'amar Rava, another piece from Rava. Le'olam ligris inish ve'afal gav the meshakach ve'afal gav de lo yada my kamar, and he brings it from David HaMelech. Rava himself asked the question. Ktiv, on one hand it says al gapi, uchtiv al kiseh. Now the full pasuk reads, Shalcha, this is in Mishneh Perek Tet, Shalcha na'arotea tikra al gape, merome karet. On one hand, it says that it's reading the Torah, is announcing the Torah on top of the high places, which is a very lonely place. And on the other hand, the pasuk right there in that same perek later on says, V'yashva lepetach beta, sits by the door of his house, al kiseh merome karet. So says the Gemara. So what's the pshat? Betchila berosh merome, ulbasof al derech, ale derech. The first one is going to be, when you start learning Torah, it's going to be pretty lonely, right? You don't, nobody knows the person, and you don't really know it well. But once you do it enough, then it becomes something that becomes ale darich. You do it in the middle of everyone, and everyone is going to know about it. So says the Gemara, Ula asked the question between the two psukim. On one hand, it says, Shtemai mi borecha, drink water from your bore. What's a bore? A hole, huh? Basically a hole that has water in it. Uchtiv v'nozlim mitoch be'erecha. And then it says, and liquid from your be'er. Be'er, what's be'er? It's a wellspring, right? Now what's the difference? The difference is bore, whatever water it has in it, it has in it. You bucket out the water, there's nothing left. Be'er is be'er ma'im ha'im. The more you draw, the more it has, right? It's never-ending supply of water, everlasting basically. So it says, the Gemara, "Betchilashte miborecha." In the beginning, it's difficult. It's like a bore, right? It's not something that it's clean water. It's not something that's everlasting water. But at the end, it will become be'erecha. Ma'im chayim ve'en poskin. It becomes like a ma'ayana mitgaber, like the Mishnah says in the sixth parak of Mishnah Pirkei Avot. It's a person that learns Torah Lishma becomes like a ma'ayana mitgaber, an everlasting, pumping spring of water. Torah is like the same way. You learn in the beginning, you think like, I just learned a little bit, I'm forgetting it. What do I know already? But at some point, someone went to the Ben Ish Chai. It was the yortzeit of his father, and Ben Ish Chai wanted to discuss some divrei Torah with him. So he sat and started darshaning on one pasuk, and the guy said for an hour and a half the Ben Ish Chai was just pumping new pshatim, not something that he had prepared. So he could say like this, and explained it, and it's like this. He said he probably discussed more than 40 pshatim on one pasuk for an hour and a half straight, le'ilui nishmat his father. Just like a pump, like the Torah, as if it was coming to him in the Shamayim, just to darshin psukim. How does that work? Ma'ayana mitkaber, when a person is connected with the Torah, it gets a certain siyata dishmaya. We learned this, if you remember, in Masechet Megillat Daf Vav. Mara says there's an element of siyata dishmaya. When a person is connected with the Torah, right? When you put your piece in, when you put your work in, the rest of it becomes siyata dishmaya. How you remember? I have no idea. Siyata dishmaya. But Gemara said that, right? I said the migmar to learn is you have to put your hard work, right? But to get to the proper maskana and to remember what you learned, you need siyata dishmaya for that. So says the Gemara, another piece over here. Amar Rava, again from Rava, in the name of Rav Schora, in the name of Rav Huna. My tichtiv, this is now the flip side. Hon mi hevel imat v'kovetz al yad yarbe. Hon mi hevel imat, that means you have a lot of money and it's worth nothing. But kovetz al yad, when you add and save little by little, yarbe, you become a lot. It becomes a lot and you become rich. What does that mean? If you learn Torah bunches and bunches, right, wholesale, you start learning, I want to finish Shas, I'm going to do 10 dapim a day. Yalla, let's do it. Get the art scroll and let's hit the road, 10 dapim a day. Right? So yeah, you're going to finish it in 7 months. Amazing. Chazak Baruch. But when you stand over there giving the Siyum Shas, you know nothing. Right? The Gemara says, if you do a lot without any chazara, without any review, without any accountability, then mitma'et, the Torah diminishes, it goes down, and you don't really learn. Ve'im kovetz al yad, but if you learn a little bit and you review it, you learn a little bit and you review it, then yarbe, you seem to be inching ahead slowly, but after 5 years, you, in comparison with the guy that was doing 10 dapim a day, you'll be much more of a Tamil Hacham, right? Now, so this is the reason I'm saying double-edged sword, because you have to have both. On one hand, you can't kvetch too much and stay on something forever. You have to move, right? You have to have a pace, and you have to, but at the same time, it has to be with a certain level of accountability that, okay, I'm learning this, but I want to also know it. I don't want to go too fast, right? So says the Gemara, Amar Rava, Yadi Rabbana lai milta ve'avri ala. Rabban says Rava, Chachamim know this and still don't do it. In other words, they know that if you don't do Hazara enough, you won't succeed in learning the way you can, and still they don't review things properly. So you see, this is an eternal problem. It's not something that is our generation's problem. Always people want to go ahead. No one wants to do accountability necessarily, but those who do it, they will reap the benefits. The Gemara says Resh Lakish would review everything 40 times. 40 times! Right? The Gemara that we had together in Chagigah Daf Tet, the Gemara said a person has to review his learning how many times? 101 minimum, right? And you think to yourself, 101 times, Chazaku Baruch. But the truth is, yes, because if you do that, if you learn Gemara Rashi Tosafot of Masechet Baba Batra, with the Tosafot, right? You learn the Tosafot, which references other Masechtot and so on and so forth. If you learn Baba Kama, Baba Batra, you know half of Shas. Because all those sugyot are mentioned in the Rashi and Tosafot, so if you review it well, you already have your hand on half of the sugyas of Shas. Right? That's how it works. But that's with good review. If a person does the accountability a little bit, and it could be, I had a chavruta, now he's a Rosh Kol in a very important kollel, Menachem Mendel Stern, Shlita. He was a good friend of mine, and he knows Shas. He finished Shas, he wrote Sfarim and so on and so forth. And he would review the Daf Yomi that he would do. He would learn Daf Yomi at the same time, even though that he knew Shas. And every time that he did carpool, right, he had this Daf that was in 15 minutes. It was given in 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and he would put it on 2x or 1.5x, I'm not sure what exactly, and he would listen to it in 10 minutes. So each way that he would do carpool, he would listen to the whole Daf, right? He would review the Daf like this several times a day, and that was just doing carpool and doing things that normally other people will be listening to Uncle Moshe, right? So this is this is accountability for someone that could have said, well, I've learned Shas Biyun, I've written Sfarim on it. But that's the accountability of a person that could take it seriously. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Avidtah v'kem biyadi. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said, I listened to this Rava, and I reviewed my limud v'kiyam biyadi, and it was established in my hand. Now I know everything that I learned because I review it properly. The Gemara says, Amoraim, that every 30 days they would chazer all of their limud. Can you imagine? Every month they would do a hazara on all of what they had learned. They had a system figured out, right? And the Rishon and Levi, every 30 days, they will do a chazara on everything that they learned. Important. Amar Rav Shizbi. Rav Shizbi said, I had another friend, he actually, in the tests of Shas, when Dirshu has the system of Daf Yomi, and then they have testing systems. They have testing system for 1 month at a time, and then they have a much higher track of testing from the beginning of the Daf Yomi until where the Daf is holding, right? So you start from the first month only with 30 Daf, next month becomes 60 Dafim, right? And it becomes 90, it becomes 120, right? And at the end of 7 years, you are being tested on the entire Shas, right? Entire Shas. You sit there with papers being tested from 7 years ago material until now, right? And he was the first, number one in the country, right? By Pesach Skolnik, Shlita. And he had, I'm just saying this for people to, you learn from good people, from successful people. He had, regular binder papers, right? College ruled papers, and he would fold them to two, and he would write on, on 2 different columns on every paper, the summary of the daf that he learned that day. And every page would have 7 or 8 dapim summarized in it. And he had a binder of this, and it would constantly you never saw him without this binder, right? It was part of the furniture, this. He would go with it every minute that he had. He was reviewing. And after 7 years, this Yid knew the entire Shas. You could walk over to him and talk to any sugya. Oh, that's Masachat Terumot Taf this and this. Masachat Keritot this and this. Because it's accountability, a regular person, smart, not an ilui, but the person could do it. You could start from a small masechta and do it in that way. But Hashem will continue in the days to come.